All right, sweet. We're live.
Okay, I'm Mallory Mckinney and I am going first.
I'm Jacob Nichols, and I'm going second.
I'm John Hingle and I'm going third.
I'm Drew Flournoy and I'm going for it.
Okay, so the first question is, when was the last time you were motivated to do something? Share with your team what motivated you in that situation. You cannot use completing this assignment as an example. So I said that I've been very motivated to finish out my summer courses strong. I am planning to graduate early, so I'm taking a whole semester of classes this summer. I am motivated to finish these courses strong so that I can stay on the right track of graduating early.
For me, I said the last time I was motivated to do something was the last time I went to the gym and worked out. The main drive behind that motivation is the want to build my physical body to the best it can be, and that is not achieved without putting in the work.
For my answer, I had never run more than a few miles before, but I wanted to challenge myself physically and mentally. What motivated me was the idea of pushing through the discomfort and proving I had endurance and discipline to finish something tough.
For mine, so I'm actually taking an A-led 301 class and we had to challenge ourselves to do something for an entire semester. And I've always hated running, but I've always wanted to experience runner's high. So I decided to do a 5K. And yesterday I ran the 5K. And I mean, I don't love running now, but I'm like proud of myself that I actually did it. So.
Number two, select one of the options and answer for the group. Can you remember an experience in a youth program when you had one, a voice in the program, two, practiced a valued skill, or three, built meaningful relationships? For me, I remember a time where I built meaningful relationships. There are times in youth programs where I can remember being in a room full of people I did not know. After introducing myself to someone, I could just tell we're going to get along well and have like a good, meaningful relationship. For example, when attending a church camp, I was introduced to a lot of people in my small group, one of whom I became very good friends with, and I still keep in touch with them today.
Okay, for this question, I picked a different option. I picked a voice in the program, and my answer was in my church, United Methodist, our youth program. I had the opportunity to practice leadership by helping organize and lead a community outreach event. We planned a day that serves meals and spent time with the people in need. I was part of the team and led prayer, coordinated volunteers, and helped with the setup.
For mine, I did when you build a meaningful relationship. And I actually work at a summer camp and have for the past 3 summers. And it's been rewarding, but also such a learning curve. And we're not like an overnight camp, we're like a day camp. So we see these kids every weekday. And it's created like a unique bond between us because I know what's going on in their lives, like outside of the summer camp. And they love to tell me about all the details of their lives. So I've created a strong connection with them. And then also my coworkers, we've worked together for the past 3 summers. And none of us really knew each other before, but we've bonded over like the funny stuff that the kids do. And we just like to laugh and have a fun time and make sure the kids are having fun. And yeah.
For me, I said that I've been helping out with the youth in my church for a long time now, and I've built a lot of connections with the younger kids. And being with the kids almost every Sunday has impacted my relationship growth with each of them.
Sounds good. For question three, share one thing you found interesting from the Bobo doll experiment. Expand on your thoughts. And my answer was I found it interesting. What I found interesting was how children who observed aggressive behavior were more likely to imitate it. It really showed how easily youth can absorb and mirror the behavior of adults in their lives. It made me look back on how needed positive examples are for the youth development.
I said that I found the concept of learning performance distinction really interesting. In the Bobo doll experiment, some of the kids didn't initially mimic the aggressive behavior until they were offered a reward for doing so. And this just proved that children can learn a behavior without imitating it immediately. And it reminded me how important it is to be hyper aware of how you act around kids, because even if they're not copying you right then and there, like they're still watching and learning from you.
I'm pretty much said the same thing. I said that it was interesting because it showed that what you see and watch can influence the way you act. The experience proved that the environment can shape anyone's behavior.
Very similar to y'all. I said the experiment showed us that young children copy the actions of adults. What we saw in the experiment was when the adults would hit the doll, the children would also hit the doll. And so it just concluded that the kids learn from observing others older than them, like adults.
Okay, so for the next question, it was what was your biggest takeaway from the day 16 lecture? I said that my biggest takeaway from day 16 was the idea that true inclusivity goes beyond simply involving individuals with disabilities. It requires us to change how we view disability and to actively reshape social spaces so that youth with disabilities feel genuinely welcome and respected and included. It's not just about them having access to it, it's about making them feel like they belong.
I said that mine was learning the importance of adapting activities that everyone can be included in. Inclusive activities ensure that all youth feel welcomed and have the same chance to participate. And that I plan to, or I plan to apply this newfound understanding in my everyday life by helping every individual feel accepted and welcome.
So in the lecture, it showed us that we are not to make assumptions that disabled people need or want our help, and they should be treated no different than any other person. Disabled people might not be able to do everything we do, so it is important that the instructor is able to make the activities adaptable for the disabled person where they can still participate and still be a part of the group.
So my answer was my biggest takeaway from this lecture was to empower people with disabilities and not put them down. We throw the label normal around too much, and we must ask ourselves, what even is normal? Like the professor said, normal is just a setting on the dishwasher. We need to embrace these people because they truly are a walking miracle.
Okay, so number 5, reflecting on day 15 activity, what was the most surprising aspect of the simulation for you, and how has this experience changed your understanding of poverty and its effects on families and youth? So I said that the most surprising thing to me was how difficult it was to choose when to save money or when to spend the money. Some of the questions that were asked were very difficult to answer, considering the circumstances of how much money I had. This experience changed my understanding of poverty by teaching me more about what it really looks like and how many people actually suffer from poverty. It has taught me the effects that poverty has on families.
So after playing the simulation, like I see all the different expenses and things that can go wrong in day-to-day life that aren't necessarily an issue in mine. And I see how that directly affects youth when the parents are struggling with poverty, like financially. And the simulation showed that most people in poverty are doing like all they can to save money, make ends meet, and still take care of their family. And that's what the simulation showed me.
So my answer was my big surprise was running out of money on the fifth day. Like while I was doing the simulation, it was like very, very surprising how many things come up and how frugal these people actually have to be. Like every week they're barely skimming by, and some weeks they're not even skimming by. Like me, I ran out of money on the fifth day, and also like children in these situations, they're just like collateral damage to the circumstance, and I just think it's just sad.
I said that the most surprising thing about the simulation was how emotionally difficult it was to constantly choose between meeting basic needs like food, rent, and gas, and doing things that felt like morally right or like things that you should do. It made me realize that poverty isn't just about financial hardships, it's about being in a state of constant trading this for that, having guilt and feeling stressed. And it gave me a deeper empathy for youth and family in poverty And it helped me understand how this kind of environment can impact someone's mental health, their sense of security in life, and just long-term decision making.
All right. Question 6. Provide 2 aha moments from the History of Youth Development lecture. Also, give me a brief overview from Teenage Trailer. What are your thoughts about this film? I never gave much thought to where kids played in their youth in the past compared to where my childhood or even now. Um, when I read that they played in the street due to the lack of space in the backyard and in the house, I just assumed that like all the youth and like that was like the biggest thing for me. It was like I didn't realize it was a space issue. And then I assumed all the youth went to school and that the poor kids would just like kind of pick up jobs on the side. But it was surprising to me to see that the poor kids didn't even go to school. They actually just worked full time and only the rich kids went to school. And the teenage trailer was interesting to me. I just thought it was interesting on saying like how the younger people are shaping the future. And I really believe that to be true. Like after seeing the trailer and analyzing it, I just kind of like saw how like yeah it is the younger generation that ends up carrying whatever through each generation.
So my first aha moment was, like seeing what activities these kids in the early 19th century were partaking in, like drinking and smoking and reckless sex. It is truly mind-boggling, just seeing like what they actually were doing. And he brought up how young these kids actually were. You hear about nowadays kids like in high school doing it, but there were some kids even 9 years old drinking beer, smoking a cigarette at the bar. My second one was seeing how long it took people to realize that children don't belong in the workplace, because like we couldn't even fathom that idea nowadays. And also watching the teenage trailer, it was very interesting seeing people from a different time that are my age and also see like what these people are partaking in. And honestly, in my opinion, I think they were kind of robbed of their teenage years, just going from straight childhood to just work and not having that time to adjust to real life. And I found that pretty interesting.
I said that one aha moment for me was learning that youth programs weren't originally created to help youth develop into strong citizens, but rather to help adults be more productive during the times of socioeconomic change when they were actually going to work and doing all they could. And that the programs were mainly there to aim to keep like the lower class occupied and separated them rather than like fostering integration and growth, which is what the whole point is now. And then I also said that it was shocking that the concept of a teenager like didn't exist before the Industrial Revolution, and that you were either a child or an adult. Like that's just crazy to me. And the idea that like a transition into adulthood had to be invented was that was crazy. I thought that the teenage trailer was very interesting. I can't imagine instead of having like my teenage years, I would just got shipped off to war or like to work. I think that it's crazy that something that feels so natural like actually had to be invented and like thought of. And yeah.
So I couldn't find the aha moments. So I am just going to talk about the film. I said that the trailer showed children turning into teens and getting ready for war, and I thought that that was interesting because they were all just still so young, and they used like real footage to shape the term of being a teenager. And they also showed how American culture started to spread with music, dancing, and films.
For question 7, it says the antisocial quiz 11 was a bit different. I had each of you create a detailed plan to work towards your goal. Please update the group on your goal and what progress has been taken. All right. So my answer was my goal was to just graduate college with a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M, and everything's been going great. I've been sticking to the not procrastinating rule that I've set for myself, and I'm doing all my work on time and making sure to set my planner out and get all my assignments in for the week. So, yeah.
So my goal was to find a healthy balance between school work and a social life, like during the summer. While I have had a few off days here and there, where I just didn't feel motivated to get everything done on my to-do list, overall I have made progress and I've been keeping up with my planner and making my to-do list. And the majority of the time, I do get most of my work done before the weekends, so I'm able to like take that time and socialize with my friends.
Kind of like what John said, just graduating from A&M and stop putting my work off to the side and like telling myself I'll do it last minute. That's been what I've been trying to work towards is just getting all my work done. And I've been doing better and I've been making progress this summer just to get through and graduate as soon as possible.
My goal was to be more diligent in doing my schoolwork, like y'all's pretty much. For the next 2 years going forward, I stated that I would start the day I wrote that assignment, and I will say that I've been good about not procrastinating my homework and getting it done since I said that. So I've been setting my time aside and doing my work and not just procrastinating it.
Okay, so for question number 8, it is thinking from the lens of a youth development program leader. What takeaways can you draw from the 2 required podcasts that Dr. Nelson has listened to? In other words, how could we take this information and apply it to the following sections of youth leaders, Powerball Revolution, providing the best practices to parents, program managers, and other decision makers, cautionary tales, and I said from the Powerball Revolution podcast, I saw how a lottery-based system for selecting youth leaders, like how it could increase equality and participation. I think it removes the pressure of like a popularity contest and having biases. And it also gives space for diverse voices that might not typically be heard, and they can be able to rise to the occasion of being a leader and make changes. And I think that this could encourage a broader range of ideas and strengthen program outcomes. And then the Cautionary Tales podcast emphasized the importance of learning from past failures. It reminded me of how critical it is for programs to have a feedback system where they can catch a problem early and allow for changes to be made in real time. It is important when working with youth that you create spaces where people can share what went wrong because that's how growth happens, not just for the youth, but also for the adults supporting them.
For the selection of youth leaders, I used selecting random people for the youth leadership can make stronger leaders. This helps discover who would make a good leader without there being any pressure on anyone stepping up. And this is a good way to include everyone that might not speak up about wanting to be a youth leader. And then for providing best practices to parents, program managers, or other decision makers, I said the best practices for parents, program managers, or other decision makers is creating a safe environment where the youth feel comfortable to be in and speak up in. Another practice is to stay supportive and handle small issues correctly so that they do not escalate.
So I said for this Powerball Revolution, the selection of youth leaders, I said the Powerball Revolution podcast showed that choosing leaders by random chance, like a lottery, can help find hidden talent. As youth program leader, I use this idea by giving all the youth a fair chance to lead, not just the ones who always raise their hands. This helps more kids feel included and gives quiet kids a chance to grow and lead too. It teaches us that anyone can learn to be a leader. And for the Cautionary Tales podcast, I pretty much just said it shows how people can make mistakes in thinking. Sometimes we make fast choices without doing all the facts. As a program leader, I would teach parents and staff how to slow down, think more carefully. Instead of judging a kid for one bad day, we can give them more chances and help them improve. This helps all youth feel supported and gives them room to grow.
So for question 8, I couldn't locate the podcast, so I didn't partake in this question.
Okay, number 9. This is one where we just show our worksheet.
So I'm going to screen share. Can y'all see that?
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
yep,
I
there we
can
go.
now.
Okay. So this is the essential elements worksheet for me, and then for Drew, and then for Mallory, and then for John, and we can just go through one of them. I think all of our answers are pretty much the same, I'd imagine. So, do you just want to pick up the order, Mallory?
Yeah. Okay, for the first one, youth need nourishing, supportive, and protective environments where they can grow to be healthy and contributing adults.
Programs must be intentional and purposeful about enriching settings with elements that lead to positive youth development.
Youth development fields now acknowledge that features of positive settings include essential elements in order for youth to thrive in and out of school settings.
Positive relationships institute feelings of belonging by presenting youth with the reality that they are cared about and accepted by others.
Youth do not fear emotional or physical harm while participating, whether from the learning environment itself or from adults, other participants, or spectators.
The likelihood of engaging youth who are not comfortable with their surroundings is very slim.
Youth members support each other during fair judging at sport events and through academic challenges.
Provide many forms of recognition, not just those who excel in competition with other youth.
The engaged learner has a higher degree of self-motivation and an exhaustible capacity for creativity.
Members by choice become leaders of the group. I challenge you to try a new approach, lottery systems. See revisionist history, Powerball revolution.
The development of mastery is a process that takes place over time.
Plan age-appropriate activities and accommodate diverse learning styles.
Encourage youth to set goals for themselves for 5 to 10 years in the future that are challenging yet achievable.
Preparation, practice, and determination support the premise that hard work pays off in the future.
Youth members choose projects, activities, or hobbies.
Adult leaders act more as guides on the side.
The ideal citizen is one who freely and joyfully contributes his or her time and talents to the benefit of others.
Service learning helps young people understand others and themselves, as well as see how they can make positive impact throughout the rest of their lives.
And lastly, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth.
Did that stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So question 10, I believe we're on. What is Dr. Nelson's Day 24 catch-all lecture covered numerous discussion points. I want you to share one talking point with the group, create one question to share using any one of my question stems below to help guide your discussion. You need to have your question ready to share with your group. For note submissions, you need to answer your own question. My question was, what is the main difference between eustress and distress, and how can they commingle healthily? And I said, eustress is a positive version of stress that helps us become better and more confident, while distress is a negative level of stress that discourages us and decreases our performance. I believe that eustress is always good to have, but small amounts of distress could help strengthen you more over time if it's not an excess.
For my question, it was, what is an example of an action you take towards your personal health and well-being? And my answer was, I make sure I attend the gym at least 5 times a week and I have a well-balanced diet.
For my question, I said, what is an example of how a mentor can impact a mentee's growth? And I said, a mentor can make an impact on a mentee's growth by offering them constructive feedback and helping them recognize their blind spots. If a mentor notices that their mentee is struggling with self-doubt, they can challenge the mentee to reframe how they see themselves, and by doing so, help grow their confidence, which leads to meaningful growth in both professional and personal relationships.
So I chose the explain why, and I said explain why talking about personal health matters. And my answer is talking about your personal health can help make better choices that will lead to a healthier lifestyle and will help you move towards better health every day.
And that was our project. Is that the end of it?
Yeah.
Think so?
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.